This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the After Stangs Show. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening. SMU is coming off of a 34-27 win at number 22 Louisville. Took us a minute to get home, but hey, SMU is 5-1 going into the bye week, so hope you guys celebrated while you're waiting for this show to begin. And we are very happy to be also presented by our friends at mosquitoshield.com. Moshield.com is actually where you can reach out to them and set up your appointment today. They don't even need to come out to your house to survey it and set it up. They can handle it all remotely. So give them a call at 800-908-7076. Andrew Galloway and his wife, Caroline, run this business here locally in DFW, and they want you to use the code PONYUP for the best pricing for the remainder of the mosquito season, which runs through November. They were just at my house on Monday doing our second spray in their treatment to our yard. And let me tell you, I was standing out there earlier this week after they got done doing the spray, and that second spray is key. And it was so nice just to be able to stand out there knowing that the mosquitoes weren't coming after me, and trust me, they come after me for whatever reason. And I love sitting out there. I was just planning out this show, sitting out there watching the end of that Minnesota USC game. And it was like a different world living in my backyard, quite frankly. And so we want you to reach out to them. Moshield.com is where you can find all the information on mosquito, tick, and pest control. And they will do a tremendous job for you. They'll offer you the best pricing you can get with code PONYUP. And if you're in the surrounding areas of DFW and they can't get to you, they'll pass you off to whoever you can use for their services. So appreciate Mosquito Shield for being the presenting sponsor of the After Stangs Show. We're, of course, not at Shug's Bagels in Mockingbird Plaza with it being a road game, but we've got a lot to talk about. And while it's probably a party at after hours Shug's Bagels right now, it was a party in Louisville for SMU. Winning 34-27, going on the road and getting a top 25 win for Rhett Lashley and his staff going into a bye week. You talk about the 3-game stretch SMU has had, and it's been one of the historic ones in program history, especially in modern program history. And they did it by starting fast, swinging back when Louisville gave them trouble during that third quarter in particular. And they were able to get on that plane very, very happy tonight as they go into the bye week ahead of that matchup at Stanford later this month, and are able to look at themselves now as an ACC championship contender and very much in the picture for the college football playoff because of it. And so let's dive into this game. We'll get to the questions from our ontheponyexpress.com subscribers shortly. And let me tell you, we activated a flash sale first and foremost. Code PONYUP gets you 50% off your annual subscription to ontheponyexpress.com. We were chatting during the game on the message board, tons of fans, our subscribers, talking about the game, recapping it, sharing where they were watching. We had a watch party at Hillside Tavern on Mockingbird, and it was just awesome from what I had heard. Talked to a couple of subscribers that went. They took care of our subscribers there. Sound was on for the Mustangs, and it was loud there in Louisville. I got back a couple hours ago, and it was one of those moments, and I said this to somebody about halftime. This is what SMU signed up for. They signed up for these road games. They signed up for this conference where you're going into hostile environments and you're playing meaningful games. And if you look around at the parity of college football, it's hard to win. Kalen DeBoer led Alabama to a win over Georgia last week, and the Tide go out and lose on the road at Vandy this week in a, quite frankly, stunning upset. And that is where you've got to give flowers right away to Rhett Lashley and his staff. You know, this program, where it's been, they go out, they beat TCU. Check. Well, where's the letdown? No letdown. A beatdown of Florida State at home the next week to open ACC play. Okay, maybe they're bound to be reading their press clippings and have a letdown in a sense against a top 25 team on the road. And I was talking with people in Louisville last night, and I said, this is the game we're going to find out a lot about Louisville, because in my opinion, at least, I knew a lot about SMU. I knew that this was a team that ran the football really well. They've started fast since Kevin Jennings has taken over at quarterback, and their defense has got timely stops, and their depth on the defensive line would show. And at the same token, you have Tyler Shook, who's been tremendous over the course of his season. And this Louisville offense is very multiple. I mean, they lined up I formation, spread. They threw a lot of different things at Scott Simons in this defense, and they were still able to find a way to go out and win a ball game. And when SMU needed this defense to step up, they did. You know, Rhett Lashley said it best in the locker room, talking about it on the, afterwards with the guys. 3 sacks by SMU's defense in the fourth quarter. 0 sacks allowed by SMU's offensive line as SMU went on an 89-yard touchdown drive that won the game for him. And you look at the maturity of this team, and I think this is the win that out of all of them so far this year that you point to and you say, this is what you get when you have a veteran football team. Forget that Kevin Jennings is still relatively young in his starting career for the SMU Mustangs. But when you have veterans like Jonathan McGill, Isaiah Wacobia, Elijah Roberts, you look at the wide receiver core that they spread it around to. RJ Maryland was the leading receiver. Rashard Smith was banged up going into this game. LJ Johnson punches in a touchdown. Roderick Daniels made contributions. The offensive line didn't allow a sack of Kevin Jennings. And that was the 4th time this season that SMU was able to do that. This is a mature football team. And now we at least get to talk about it. SMU is right in the picture for the ACC championship. They're not a team right now that is sitting there, maybe on the losing side of a top 25 matchup at Louisville, which there would have been no shame in, and it would have been tough to eat, as SMU had an 11-point lead coming out of halftime. And instead, despite that lead getting eliminated and Louisville coming back, and credit to them, outscoring SMU 14-3 to start that second half, SMU was still able to gather itself and go out and get critical points at the right moments and win the ball game. And I picked this game, I believe 31-23, 31-24 SMU. And Rhett Lashley improves now to 20-1 when the Mustangs score 30 points or more. It is a tremendous stat. It's why we talk about it a lot. It is just such a different football team than what we saw against BYU. And BYU had to happen for this team to sprint into these next 3 games. And it needed that wake-up call. And unfortunately for SMU, that's what it took. And college football is not created equally anymore. It's not a sport that is so much so about, okay, well, you've got to win every single one of your regular season games to be in position to win a national championship. If there was one game that SMU fans could have picked to lose out of all 12 on this schedule, probably pick BYU. Wouldn't be a shame if they lost to a team that's now in the top 25. Wouldn't be a shame that they, messed around and didn't finish, lost to a respectable program, but then they beat TCU, but then they beat Florida State, and they went on the road and they grabbed a win against a top 25 team in Louisville. That's what college football is now. It's finding ways to be ready to play each week. And SMU has found that ability. And whether it be a BYU loss that stings, because SMU would love to be in the top 25 right now, the growth of this team during that stretch has been so tremendous. And also that accounts for the coaching staff as well. Rhett Lashley, out of the entire game plan, I felt like he called a very mature football game. Outside of the reverse, which Roderick Daniels fumbled, that's on him. That's a lack of focus. This was a game that Brett Lashley pretty much called straight up, and they were able to go out, get the win. And once again, this offense started fast, and the defense allowed a touchdown on the opposing team's opening drive, very similar to Florida State. And Brett Lashley compared it to that. But you look at how SMU went tit for tat, basically, with the Cardinals and traded blows. You look at the third quarter, Louisville comes out and goes down the field, 8 plays, 78 yards in 4:56, and they score a touchdown. Right after Rhett Lashley calls timeout, they score a 1-yard touchdown run. Colin Rogers answers with a field goal. They get Louisville backed up. They had them back there at their own 14-yard line. 3rd and 6 looked like an advantageous situation for SMU, but instead, Jonathan McGill kind of gets turned around, and Ja'Cory Brooks goes for 86 yards, and that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles when you're playing an NFL wide receiver bunch. I was talking with a couple of people after the game, and that's the best wide receiver core SMU is going to face all year. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Especially the upper echelon, like a Ja'Cory Brooks, he is an absolute stud. He showed why he was a 5-star receiver coming out of high school. And the good thing is SMU got by it without taking the loss. And after that touchdown, the next score and the final score of the game was an LJ Johnson 1-yard touchdown run to cap the 11-play, 89-yard touchdown drive with 3:23. That took 3:23 off the clock. And it's funny, 89 yards is a long way to go in college football. And Rhett Lashley talked about it in the press conference after the game. And I kind of not missed, but I understand what he was saying. He said, we went 90 yards. And I said, oh, what was the key in that 89-yard touchdown drive and how you circled the wagons to put that together and how impressive it is? And he said, you're selling it short. I said 90 earlier, basically. And it's still an impressive number on the road against a Louisville defense has been very good. And let me tell you, I was driving to the airport after the game, and you deserve respect when you have opposing fans calling into the post-game show, which one day we're either going to be doing that with post-game call-in show here at On the Pony Express, or maybe there's a radio show one day that covers it live and takes you all the way through coverage. But you look at what SMU is able to do, and they're talking about firing Ron English, their defensive coordinator. They're looking for solutions, and they're wondering, hey, Jeff Brom, as much as they like him at Louisville, and he's a guy that bleeds it, he's also on the flip side of things, not immune to criticism and second guessing and all of those things. He went for it. 3rd and 1, stuffed. 4th and 1, could have taken points, could have been up 3. Instead, didn't get it. And I don't want to say that's the reason why Louisville lost, and I get why Jeff Brom went for it. And for me, I'm always going to err on the side of aggressiveness when looking at opposing coaches or even what Rhett Lashley does. Like if Rhett Lashley went for 4th and 1 in that situation, you're thinking, okay, kill shot, get a touchdown, and it's there for your team to take that win. And at the same time, in a game that was that close, you've got to take the points there if you're Jeff Brom. But kudos to SMU's defense. They kept playing. And without Tank Booker, who was dressed and available for those who are wondering, and we'll get to questions from our On the Pony Express subscribers here in just a moment. But to not have that big body in the middle, there were moments in this game where SMU definitely missed him. And Rhett Lashley said it earlier this week that he wanted to maybe find a way to get to the bye week without playing Tank Booker. And obviously that showed how much confidence he had in the group that they had to rotate and keep rolling bodies, but also that you're playing for something that's bigger than one game. and Rhett's kind of talked about this, and it's not defeatism, it's not, a lack of confidence as much as it is SMU's not supposed to be in this situation. They're not supposed to be 2-0, having beaten the teams that were in the ACC championship last year. They're not supposed to be 5-1 after 6 games. That's just not where the expectation for a team jumping up into power conference play is at, because the usual situation for teams jumping up is middle around, making a bowl, not making a bowl, very, on the edge of all of that. And I believe Rhett said that teams are 1-5 in their ACC openers. I'd love to know the stat on what teams are in their ACC road openers. And SMU drew a tough task against Louisville, a top 25 team. And, I said to a lot of people, I said, look, Louisville going into this game has a high flying offense on paper. They have a defense that has played really well statistically, but they went out and beat Austin Peay 62-0. They averaged over 10 yards a carry. They held them to 1 yard a carry on defense. They went out and then played Georgia Tech and Notre Dame, and their offense running the football didn't look the same. And this game against SMU, Louisville was able to rush for 190 yards. And at halftime, I believe it was around 2.4 yards per carry. I'd have to look. I've got the stat sheet in front of me. I don't want to mess with it too much. I've got some things I want to say. But in the second half, they did well enough where they finished at 5.4 yards per carry, yards per rush. Or excuse me, I was looking at SMU, 5.4 yards per carry. Louisville finished at 3.9 yards per carry, but I know that Louisville was around 2.4 yards per carry in the first half. So SMU's defense had kind of slowed them down. In the second half, they found a lot of success. If I was Louisville, I wasn't leaving I formation. Hard to say in today's day and age of college football, but that's the amount of time Tyler Shook had. That's the amount of space and big plays that they got out of their run game. And they were able to, find their groove. And SMU was, I don't want to say on their heels, because this program doesn't get too high or too low. Offense, defense, doesn't matter. They find their footing week in, week out, in a sense. And they're able to be right there and able to keep competing and knowing, hey, the game's not over. And I think somebody said it on the message board, this one feels like it's slipping away and this and that. And that was with 3 minutes left in the third quarter when Louisville tied the game. And I said, the good thing is there's 18:43, I believe there was, left to play. It's a lot of football. And SMU won the fourth quarter. They were able to go in there and impose their will in that fourth quarter. Again, 7-0. That's all it took in the fourth quarter. They won that quarter, and they were able to make a play at the end. Isaiah Wacobia intercepts Tyler Shook's pass to seal the game, 4th and 17. And it doesn't happen without sacks, and it doesn't happen without pressure. And that's what SMU was able to chip away at throughout the game. And that's where I think, and not to turn it back on a fan base, but this is a new era of SMU football. And I've watched a lot of high-level SEC football throughout my career. And you are looking at what it looks like week in, week out. Alabama just lost to Vanderbilt. And I haven't even gotten caught up on the rest of the scores around college football, but Tennessee's struggling with Arkansas. And I don't know if that one's changed in terms of the lead and where that is. Washington went out and beat Michigan. I mean, it's hard to win in college football. But the thing that I can always point back to with college football is it's a 60-minute football game for a reason. It's not done at 45 minutes. It's not done when the first half ends. You have a long way to go to earn a win or to find yourself blowing it and losing a football game. And you do it with a lack of focus, or you attain a victory with an intense level of focus. And that's something that SMU sticks with. And they really do. And they're terrific in finding ways to keep their guys' eyes on the football. and on the process of playing one play at a time, not letting things bother you. And I mean, we can go to the quarterback situation and what Kevin Jennings has brought. He's brought that. He's brought a one snap mentality. Everything in the past is behind him. The future's not a thing that he focuses on. And that's allowed SMU to score on every single touchdown drive, that's allowed SMU to score on every single drive since he's been the starting quarterback. They went field goal against TCU, they went touchdown against Florida State, and they went touchdown against Louisville today. And it set the tone. And similar to last week, different opponent, different level of competition, home versus away. When I was watching this game unfold, I didn't sit there and say, man, SMU's chasing this one. They're in a bad situation. Even when Louisville tied it with their hot start to the second half, I felt like there's a long way to go. And this might not go SMU's way, but they're going to find a way to make it swing back a little bit. And it's going to be that boxing match. Louisville was honoring the Rumble in the Jungle, a lot of Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, whatever generation you are on that, a lot of that in the atmosphere in L&N Stadium today. But that's what it was. It was a big heavyweight battle. This is a good Louisville team, and SMU knew that throughout it, they had to hang in there. And they did just that. They were able to engineer that big touchdown drive. Brashard Smith, his shin is down. I was watching on the stadium video boards, and you can almost tell a little bit on that type of stuff with how the crowd reacts. And there was never a moment there in the stadium where Louisville fans went, "Oh yeah, got it, cool, fumble, we're back, we're going to take over this football and get the ball back." There's never that moment. And kudos to the officials for getting it right. In my opinion, it's a bold call to make when you're going to make a game-changing call against the opponent. But his shin was down. There's a great screenshot of it floating around where his shin's down and the ball is pinned. Now, split second later, somebody rips it out and it's out there. And Brashard Smith, he's got to be a lot better. But when you look at what they were able to do, finish that touchdown drive, it was just a matter of holding on. And I felt like throughout the course of the game, SMU was able to keep chipping away with pressure. And the fourth quarter was a big piece of that. So, and it led to, in the end, Isaiah Wakobe's interception to ice the game. Obviously, 4th and 17, incomplete interception, doesn't matter. And then SMU was able to pick up a couple first downs, and that was it. It was over. So kudos to SMU. I mean, absolute hell of a win. We'll break it down more in depth with Hayden Howerton this week. And I can tell you what a day for Hayden. He was in Abilene watching his brother's Abilene Christian Wildcats beat my wife's Central Arkansas Bears, in a big battle, 4-2 teams, now 4-2 teams. So he's riding high right now off of that win. But let's get to some questions here because I think that I'll be able to talk a little bit more about the rest of the game with these questions. But what a game, what an atmosphere. This is exactly what SMU signed up for. This is exactly what you want if you're an SMU fan. If you could draw up 5-1 perfectly, this is probably it. You win your season opener, you skirt by, you don't lose a absolute bye game to Houston Christian, and you lose to BYU in a game that, quite frankly, SMU had plenty of opportunities to win against a top 25 team. And then they go out and beat the rival TCU. They win the ACC opener at home, and then they make a statement on the road against a top 25 team. Let's get into the questions here. Edwa 2, was this the first game the wide receiver by committee worked? Your thoughts on the wide receiver's performance in general? So I haven't seen the PFF grades, which is always helpful in terms of seeing how they blocked, seeing how they were able to reel in balls and things like that. Didn't get any credited drops on the score sheet for this one, but I thought this was a really good game for the wide receivers. I think they were able to find their footing. Kevin Jennings, 21 of 27 for 281 yards, 78% completion percentage. Didn't throw a touchdown. That went to Preston Stone. hell of a throw, hell of a moment for Preston. But I think this is a progression for this wide receiver group. And we've talked about this a little bit in terms of they're not rotating 6 guys at the outside receiver spot. Right now with Romello Brinson out, it's Keyshawn Smith, it's Jordan Hudson, it's Moochie Dixon on the outside, it's Jake Bailey, it's Roderick Daniels at the slot position, and then it's RJ Maryland. And at tight end, I thought Stone Eby had a big game in terms of blocking today. I thought Matthew Hibner had some good blocks. SMU is really versatile in terms of where it can go with the football at the wide receiver position. And I mean, you've just got to give them a lot of credit for sticking with it. And I don't think there were many opportunities that the wide receivers had that were drops or blatant, lack of producing opportunities. The moments where the receivers didn't catch the football, Kevin overthrew him. Threw behind Moochie Dixon on one. I believe it was Moochie. He overthrew Jordan Hudson and Keyshawn Smith, or he overthrew Jordan Hudson and then made it. There was a great play by a Louisville defender on another deep shot on that 3-and-out drive that SMU didn't necessarily need to go for in that particular moment. But, SMU was able to make it work with that wide receiver by committee. And I almost think it's time to drop that. And it's not attack or anything like that, but you're looking at a team now that has 3 receivers with Romello hurt on the outside, and you're rotating them. It's pretty fair with the deep routes that SMU likes to call every now and again, with the up-tempo, situation that they play with. And I just think they're playing good team ball. And I tell you what, SMU's wide receivers don't get enough credit. They block their tails off. They give it everything they got from start to finish in that regard. And it's just not, and this is kind of the reconditioning that has to happen. And we've kind of talked about it the last few weeks. With Kevin Jennings at quarterback, this is not your air it out program anymore. This is not your deep shots are rolling every single game program anymore. It's just not. And I think that's kind of where it ends. They've got guys that they trust. There's 3 on the outside. There's 2 in the slot. There's RJ Maryland. When he's good, he's damn good. So I think it's just another product of the different era of what SMU is now in, with Kevin Jennings at the helm of things. So yeah, I don't know if I necessarily answered that question. I just don't think it's wide receiver by committee. I just think the wide receivers played good enough for SMU to win, move the football. I mean, Kevin Jennings started 13 of 13, I believe. Second most consecutive completions by an SMU quarterback to start a game in program history. 19 is the school record. And Kevin really, rode that. And kudos to him because at the end of the first half, it kind of got blown. 2 quick incompletions there. And he was kind of out of that record watch, so to speak. But kudos to the wide receivers in the passing game. You don't get to 281 yards very easily in that respect. Coucham, what was the key to neutralizing Louisville's passing attack? Seems like they had open receivers all over the place, but yet we overcame. I don't want to say Louisville's passing attack was neutralized. 22 of 35, 329 yards, 2 touchdowns. The interception was at the end there. It was a 4th and 17. He could have batted it down. He could have whatever. But Ja'Cory Brooks is an absolute monster. 3 receptions, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, 86-yard reception, 4 touchdown. And I guess I see where you're coming from in terms of that. But when you have those explosive plays and you're able to find ways to limit them in moments, right? Like, I think of one play, and I forget when the exact moment was, but Ja'Cory Brooks breaking free. I think it happened twice, actually. and he dove for the football. And one of them was a critical moment. I think it ended up leading to the 3rd and 1 to 4th and 1 in the stop. I'd have to go back and check the play sheet, but Ja'Cory Brooks just unable to bring it in. And Brandon Crosley had just gotten called for PI or holding, one of the two. And he was kind of able to play a little footsie with him and slow him down enough where if the ref was really having eyes on him start to finish, probably has a pretty good gripe on a hold. So I'll be honest there. And penalties ended up 7 for 77 for SMU, 7 for 61 for Louisville. And Louisville had some key ones in the second half. I think they only had 25 yards of penalties in the first half. So when it comes to neutralizing it enough, I still think it came with chipping away at pressure on Tyler Shook. Again, 3 sacks in the second half, and in the fourth quarter, they were able to affect him. And kudos to Jeff Brom at various points. He had some things drawn up at perfect positioning for his teams to capitalize, and they did. Sneaking the tight end across the formation on that 4th down, and SMU kind of sold out for that one to stop it, and then Jonathan McGill chases him down. I mean, that's sometimes it happens. Like I'm a big believer of on 4th and 1, almost sell out as long as you have a little protection there. And SMU was able to protect, and I think they were able to get out of that one good enough, either a field goal or again that led to the eventual 4th and 1 and things like that. But yeah, I think on that drive it was very early. It was an early pass interference call on Crosley, and then Louisville was backed up with a hold, and then they got into that 4th and 1 situation, and then were able to pick it up, and then eventually Crosley, got a little handsy, and it worked out. But I don't know if there's a key. I don't. I think you had moments where SMU played some man, and it helped, and they left their guys out there a little bit, and they made a couple plays here, and they also got burned a little bit. Jalen Davis Robinson giving up early on that first scoring drive, I think, for Louisville. You're in zone, and you let your guy behind you, and Jalen's fast. Smoke is a burner. And he couldn't even get back and make a play on the ball. That's how bad he was beat, and he got caught looking in the backfield. Got to find ways to eliminate those. So they did have a lot of open receivers. That's kind of what happens in zone, especially at times when you're watching it from my angle, looking over it all at the press box. You can see options. But with SMU's defensive line, they kind of kept chipping away and pressuring Shook at times, and it paid off. So if there's any key, I just think almost quarterbacks are so much about feel. And I think SMU made Tyler Shook feel the pressure just a bit, even if there were moments where SMU wasn't getting pressure or hurries at times. Pruna Cox 22, with Tank not playing, LJ getting less than 5 snaps. Do you expect the team to be fresh and healthy after the bye? Any injuries sustained against Louisville? Remember, Jake Bailey leaving, but did he ever come back in? Jake Bailey did come back in. He looked like he got the wind knocked out of him, but I'm not sure. Tank was there and dressed and available. That is a good sign. He was there. If they needed him, they would have pushed it on his ankle or whatever it is, foot, whatever he's dealing with. But he was in a boot after last game, so I assume it's something like that. LJ, I was shocked that he went in and got that carry to punch it in for a touchdown. And we did. I probably should have asked Red a little bit more, but when the game ends and you're going on a bye, injury updates matter when they are sustained in the game. They don't necessarily matter if they hold someone out in a weird sense. I didn't really get into that with him, but I do think they're going to be fresh and healthy. And I think if you're looking at one player that needed the bye week the most, Rashard Smith absolutely needed the bye week. He's a warrior, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I mean, what he's able to do, and he didn't have a statistical game like he normally has. 13 carries, 52 yards, average 4 carry, 3 receptions, 17 yards. But with what he's done for SMU this year, he's beat up, and he needs a bye week. So, yeah, I think Tank will be healthy. I would bet a lot of money Tank will play against Stanford. LJ's going to be fine now. He actually got in the game. Romello Brinson is the one that we'll be watching. When you have bursitis, it's kind of a feel thing. And, couldn't go today. Again, was on the trip, but didn't play. So, SMU giddy up. Give me a breakdown of my GOAT, Kevin Henry Jennings. And then actually I asked Kevin, it's Kevin Jennings. We can drop the Kevin Henry part. I don't know where that came from, but Kevin Jennings. Side note, love seeing Preston and KJ celebrating after Preston's touchdown pass. Kevin is a jokester, first of all, in my opinion, from what I've seen with him. And you're seeing his confidence skyrocket. And that's very important. And I kind of pressed him about it a little bit in the post-game press conference. And I said, are you, really feeling it? And he kind of opened up and somebody else followed up. I mean, he's playing and goes into every game feeling like he's the best player on the field. And that's scary when you can back it up like he did. And at the same time, there's not a moment that really bothers him. I mean, he's just able to take everything an opposing defense gives him and figures out what to do with it. He's the maestro, as Rhett Lashley said after the game. He's pulling the strings. He's running the point guard. And I, said it was kind of going to look like Nick Marshall's Auburn offense. And it's pretty close. Pretty close. And so Kevin's playing great. He is really, really just starring. And it was even better to see Preston throw that touchdown. And I turned to Leah, the Dallas Morning News reporter. We were both covering the game today. And Preston went in and they got the false start. And even before that, I said, they're going to pass this football. There's the immediate response to, okay, all right, Preston's cold off the bench, like just hand it off, figure it out from there. Rhett Lashley has too much trust in Preston Stone, and he got super emotional talking about it after the game. You can watch the press conference on the Pony Express's YouTube channel, but just what a moment. And I actually ran into Preston this week on campus I was going to basketball media day, and I just chatted with him for a couple minutes. And he's very, Preston is, just Preston. And he's the same guy that I've covered now for 8+ years and was the most excited guy. If you watch the post-game footage of the locker room, I mean, he was right there rooting everybody on. So very, very happy for Preston to have that moment, and it meant a lot to Rhett and obviously the team. It was, basically the difference in the ball game, if you think about it. Jimmy Joe, by the way, shout out to you. I'm going to take Status Jet to the next game. That's what I'm talking about. Use code PonyUpACC. Go to statusjet.com to get more information and book that. Fountain Connoisseur, midway through the season, won our toughest stretch. How do you think we finish? Will we have a game on December 7th? Oh, I have no idea. I mean, the odds of SMU finishing unbeaten in ACC play are probably pretty low, but they went up a lot with this win. And it's super coach speak, but it's like any game on SMU's schedule. It's going to be close. It's going to be battle, especially when you get on the road, somebody swings back at you. I mean, if you want to play the odds, SMU's going to lose one, maybe two, the rest of the stretch. But they've shown me all I need to see. I mean, I'm not going to sit back here and pick against them. Why? I mean, Stanford lost to TCU. They've lost a couple games here. Duke, undefeated. Have they played anyone? We'll see. You get to Pitt. I think Pitt stayed unbeaten today. I really have been in the bubble. I haven't really looked. But Pitt's playing good football nonetheless. Boston College, okay, playing okay. Going to be a difficult team to defend, but you're at home. Go to UVA struggling. You play Cal. As I looked before I got jumped on, Cal was beating Miami. Somebody in the comments can let me know if I'm wrong or losing my marbles, but they can win every single game. So I'm not trying to predict just yet, but I mean, They've got as good of a shot as anyone. I think with the win, SMU's percentage to play, believe it or not, in the college football playoff went to 33%. Pretty wild. Pony up, MRG. Where does this victory rank in the history of post-death penalty SMU? Well, I said last week that SMU Texas during the Pony Express days was number one. When I was on ACC PM, I said that. And then SMU TCU this year, SMU Florida State this year. I still think road games are probably, just touch behind home games. So I guess I'll go 3. Still think 2011 SMU TCU was huge. Beating Houston at home was huge when Tom Herman was there. But I mean, this is way up there, guys. I mean, this is top 3. Stangs 2018. Let's just let you have your moment instead of trying to dish out punishment and praise for your takes on things. OC Mustang Tank. We talked about it. He should be good to go for Stanford. Burchard, he needs a bye week. He should be good to go for Stanford. Any other nicks or injuries that might go past the bye week? Romello is probably the only one on that front. Coucham, as a former quarterback, where do you think Jennings is on utilizing his potential? Are we seeing 90% of peak, 50%? He has grown massively every game. How much of that growth is offensive adjustments versus personal growth? Not to minimize the job Rhett Lashley's doing, because it's very important that you have great play call and you have players that you can trust to put everybody in position to have success, because that's where this offense is. This is a team game. This is a team offense. This isn't, somebody being Superman. This isn't some of the teams of SMU past where you have a dominant wide receiver and he takes over a game. This is your quarterback being the trigger man, and he's in a zone where he doesn't get bothered by things and he doesn't let anything on the outside affect him. And so you couple that with him being 20 years old, with him only having a few starts under his belt. And I don't disagree that 50%, 60% is right around that positioning if you wanted to throw a percentage on it in terms of his peak potential. Talk about a guy who is worked out with trainers lately and things like that, but he's muscled up. He's gotten stronger. He's certainly gotten more confident. He's able to run the ball. I mean, from the wave last week to Florida State to going 59 yards up the middle against Louisville. And Elijah Roberts even said in the postgame, he kind of talk some trash today. And that's kind of Kevin. So he's very much settling into his own skin. I think as he gains more confidence, it's not a arrogance where he's going to start tossing picks and forcing everything because he thinks he can get it done. I just think he's going to keep playing great football. I'm really high on Kevin Jennings, as a lot of you know. And I think somebody, one of my fraternity brothers texted me today and said, how many years does Kevin have left? I said, he's got this year and he's got 2 more to go. And it should be a pretty fun ride for SMU fans. Mustang 41, where do you see SMU ranked following this win? Oh, this is a tough part. I don't know if SMU is going to get ranked. I know. I don't know if they're going to get ranked. And I just have this feeling, but maybe in that case, I would say 24-25 if they are going to get ranked. SMU Alum 11. Is it too early to start the extension process with Rhett, Simons, and the rest of the staff? I would want to build up a giant buyout liability, since they will be hot commodities if we go on a win streak. SMU is on a win streak, by the way, and it's not too early. I'll just leave it at that. And the conversations are being had. You start the way you start in ACC play for this new era, and people are going to reward you. And SMU, in my opinion, educated opinion, won't lose any of those guys, especially the first 2, over money. They're just not going to do it. Not going to do it. So, long way to go on that. Very, very early, though. Probation coach. They benched Jalen Davis Robinson, and except for the long play where McGill didn't wrap up effectively, the deep pass plays from Louisville went away. Did they find something with CJ Sanders in coverage, or was this just a mismatch thing and we see JDR back in the lineup as far away from Manor as possible next game? I mean, we're talking about rewatching the game and things like that. It's still very raw for me, but I just want to remind you guys, and I talked to a couple coaches after the game. I mean, this is the best offense SMU is going to face all year. And even looking ahead, I just like Boston College might present some different things that could cause problems, running quarterback. I mean, things we know SMU struggles with, but this is the best offense SMU is going to face all year. And so I don't necessarily know if we want to take overarching things out of this game and say that's how it's going to be. This is going to change this and that, because SMU's thing this game was to win. Half a point, 1 point, 7 points, whatever it looked like. Get into the bye, and go from there. And if you've got to win, then you're sitting in good shape. So I say that as an overarching thing, but Jalen Davis Robinson did not get it done. I mean, he had moments of clear, like, you can't do that. And this is a team of accountability, and you've got to be held accountable at various points. And they did that. Brandon Crosley, Deuce Harmon, they deserve the reps. They got them. And CJ Sanders continues to be one of the best nickel safeties in the entire country, in my opinion. So I'd have to really go back and dissect things, but you'll see Jalen Davis Robinson back. I don't have any question about that. He's too good of a tackler and run support. Teams are going to present different things that it's going to fit more in his wheelhouse that maybe doesn't expose him as much. He's still developing. He's somebody that has a lot of pure talent. And whenever you have pure talent at the corner position, you're probably going to see snaps. Alan Stang, odds that we'll see an ESPN College Game Day feel-good story on the relationship between KJ and Stone. I'd say 80% since we beat Louisville and we have a bye week for production. I don't know. I don't think that's a storyline they're going to go with, but who knows? Abe, yes, SMU beat the number 22 team on the road. Old Lax guy, looking at how the season has gone, which upcoming game will be the most interesting? I'd probably go with Duke on the road and Boston College at home. Obvious reasons. A lot of familiarity with Duke. They're playing well. With Duke's coaching staff, I should say. They're playing well. Boston College, the bowl game, all the issues Thomas Castellanos presents, things like that. SoCal Pony, this is a post-game podcast, not a recruiting podcast, but odds we flip a player in the next 3 weeks. I think I'm going to go low on that, but you don't want to flip a player now. You want to flip them the week of National Signing Day. Peach Mustang took out Smith, disappeared for stretches, especially post-fumble. Any reason, or more driven by what the defense gave SMU? Again, he's battling. I mean, he's a warrior, guys. And I don't want to get into it specifics, but I mean, if he can't be out there, I mean, he can't be out there. And I think after that fumble, maybe that was a part of it. Not like benching him, but hey, man, we got this, and we're going to sit you down. And it might not have even been a thing where they say, we're going to sit you. It's just how the game dictated it. So, Pruno08, help me understand. Big fourth down stop and our defense being gassed. Why did we pass the ball 3 times? I agree with you. I mean, here's my only, and I did not ask Red after this. And I think what, again, no attack or anything like that. When games go like this and SMU wins, you're not going to sit there and say, hey, remember that drive where you chucked the ball deep twice, threw 3 times? Why? I mean, you're just, it's a bye week discussion. It's a, hey, maybe let me text a source, things like that. But what I said on the board at the time, and I stand by it completely, is you had a team that was, and I totally believe this, 14-3, raced out to a lead in the second half, or tied the game in the second half. They had really slowed down SMU's rushing attack. I mean, they really were in the third quarter very, very good at slowing SMU's offense down. They had 9 rushing yards in the third quarter. And I think Rhett wanted to back them off a little bit. That's my take. So they went deep. Kevin missed them. Let's be very clear. He had a wide open Jordan Hudson. He missed him. So that's a piece of it. All right. Yeah. So I mean that's my take on it. I haven't talked to anyone, asked, and things like that. But the swing games. It's very disappointing that week in, week out, this team finds a way to win, but the fans have no trust or faith. Fans overreacting the first quarter is ridiculous. People need to realize that the players do have access to read online after the game all the negative garbage people dump on them throughout the game. Could make it hard as a player to love this fan base. Constructive criticism is one thing. Just criticizing is another. Rule of thumb, if you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, you probably shouldn't write about them either. All right, no question here. But I agree in the sense that, it's changed. There's NIL. Players are paid to do a job now. And soon enough, they'll really be paid to do a job. But the message board is the message board for a reason. You're fanatics. I love it. I appreciate y'all being there. This is a game that, unless SMU was a total phony, they should have been in and they should have been battling. And if they would have lost, it would have been a tough cookie to swallow. It wouldn't have been adjectives: embarrassing, pathetic, sad, horrible, all the pearl clutching that goes on when any single thing that's bad happens to a team. And at the same time, they won a hard-fought game. Good win, solid, top 25. I mean, but fans get high, they get low, and the goal of the team is to stay right in the middle. But yeah, I mean, this is not the old SMU. You should probably trust just a little bit more that they're going to figure it out. Pony Fan 81, if it comes to it, do we pay Rhett whatever is necessary to keep this going? Yes. Games like this will eventually get other schools to pay attention. They already are. Show Pony, do I travel to Stanford or Duke? Both. I'll be at both. We'll have a great time. Join in on the epic trip to Stanford. We have spots. It's going to be elite. Talking with Bill and Liz Armstrong about it just today. It's going to be unbelievable out there in Stanford. Duke, going to be a blast as well. Should be 2 teams that could be in the top 25. 82 Pony wins the last time SMU went on the road and beat a ranked opponent. Somebody had a nice response. It was actually Tulane, conference championship game. And then the regular season was Memphis in 2020, believe it or not. They're number 24, 25. I went through this last week. Frexzy coding, and might have to give me the rundown on the name again. Was there another game this week that was interesting that had even close to the playoff leverage of this game? Isn't it awesome we can even consider playoff leverage of an SMU game? I don't really understand the question, but yeah, every game's a playoff game. Ask Alabama. Couchum, I agree with you. Do go to Stanford, do the package to Armstrong's Winery. ATL Pony. Sorry I didn't see you in Louisville, by the way, but 2 of the last 3 weeks, some have downplayed the magnitude of the win. Is this finally our indisputable measuring stick game? Yes, I said this to anyone who would listen. This is the best team coaching talent combo that, from what we've seen in college football so far this year, that SMU is going to face. So yes, absolutely. Smooth twice. Does it use jet sweeps reverses as a way to give KJ more yards, since they are usually good for -7s with the chance to maybe get 3 yards? Gives KJ that much further to go before a touchdown. I still think Rhett Lashlee has come so far in terms of using the jet sweep. So I'm not going to go into it, but it was a lot worse. CPT Vertipotter D-line question: what was the adjustment that allowed the D-line to get so much pressure in the fourth quarter? Depth wasn't even an adjustment. I mean, I'm not trying to minimize what Calvin Thibodeau does, but 92 rushing yards in the third quarter, 7 in the fourth. They got 3 sacks. They were all over him. And, you're rolling out 2-3 deep. Blake Burris got a lot of time today with Tank Booker being out. Some people were complaining early in the game that Blake Burris was playing. That's why you go out and you get 3 deep on the defensive line. It's not because you want to play everyone and, as Cal Twitter would tell you, share the wealth on the defensive line. It's not about that. It's being fresh for the fourth quarter so you can get pressure. Cam Robertson's having a hell of a year with his snaps that he's getting and the timeliness of his pressure. And Elijah Roberts looks great playing a third of the snaps that he was last year. I don't know if I did the math on that right, but he's not playing 80 snaps a game. He's playing 50, and he's being very productive on that. So it's not an adjustment as much as SMU is deep. So, I mean, that's something that was known about this defensive line going into the season, and that is what wears down opposing offensive lines. And, in terms of running behind the left guard, I don't know why Louisville stopped, but SMU just stepped up, bowed up, and, got it done. Comet 777. We're wrapping up here. We're approaching an hour. What is your sense on Rhett's more aggressive play calling when it didn't necessarily have to be, for example, leaning away from the fairly established run, third and fourth? I think this is a drive where we talked about 3 straight passes. Again, I think he was trying to loosen up the ground game. I'm not sticking up for Rhett. I don't agree with going away from the run when it's working, but SMU wasn't getting anything on the run, so they needed to at least threaten. And it was there. Again, Jordan Hudson was wide open. Kevin missed him. So it loosened things up, and SMU was able to go for 56 of its 190 yards on the ground in the fourth quarter. Oh, good for Cal. 21-10 in that game so far. Thank you, Irrelevant Pony Express YouTube subscriber. Jump on theponyexpress.com if you're not already. 50% off annual subscriptions with code PONYUP. PonyFan93, just a general comment. This game had everything. I completely agree. One of my favorite things about the W is that Rhett Lashlee trusted Preston Stone to come in and throw a touchdown. Great for Preston, great for the team, especially if we need Preston later in the year. Stone can recognize that KJ is doing things in multiple areas of the game, but he still has a role to play and have it be played well. There's a quarterback controversy now. No, just kidding. 100%. It is so special. And Rhett got choked up about it after the game. He said it when he made this decision that SMU would need Preston Stone. And when Kevin went out and he was down, I mean, I was sitting there being like, oh boy, here we go. It's Preston Stone's time, because it just didn't look good. And, kudos to Preston. Stay ready. That's why you keep working. It's honestly only going to cause him to work harder. He's that type of guy. So huge moment in the course of the season, no matter how the end of the season plays out. Bucky Mustang, why did it take until the fourth quarter before we saw LJ? I don't know. I think Pritchard is banged up. I think they wanted to just go ahead and try to batter him in there. And Roderick, I don't know what's going on there, but they just went with him. He was available. He practiced all week. I think they were trying to be careful for whatever reason, but he practiced, so he was ready to go and available. Jalen Davis Robinson has a nickname of Smoke. I guess that means he's supposed to be super fast, but he repeatedly has receivers running by him, which, I mean, you can be fast and it still happen. He was in zone, so I don't know. I mean, I know you watch a lot of football, but you get caught looking in the backfield and you give up a big play. That's what happens. Like he's standing still. I think he needs a D named added to the end of his nickname. Well, I don't know. You can tell that to him to his face if you'd like. Good kid. learning, and we'll see. I mean, you can't get caught looking in the backfield, but you can still be very fast and get burned. I mean, that's zone coverage if you're not staying focused. So, SMU grad, when you started doing this 15 years ago, it's 14. Don't do that to me. Starting to get on Dean's level of saying that he wasn't born the last time SMU beat TCU in Ford Stadium. Started doing this 15 years ago. Could you have ever imagined we'd be here? Man, it was dicey after the Pac-12 thing, but yeah. I mean, you look around the investment in this university, the program, football, athletics overall. I mean, this is what it's all about. This is what SMU's been working towards. And, you know, the only controllable thing SMU could do is keep investing, keep spending, keep pushing to be a competitive, great program. And this is where it pays off. You know, I'm a beneficiary of it by sticking with it and saying, hey, everyone out there who, if you want to read the Dallas Morning News, fine, get it. It's your paper, you know, you're in your zone. If you want to read other outlets, go for it, whatever. But outside of Steve Lansdale and Pony fans who he's there every game, you know, I think we put our content up against anyone, you know. It's taken a long time to get to this level, but it's a credit to the subscribers too. Like, if we came over to On3, for example, and I found out quick that, you know, people, you know, maybe didn't like the content that much that they were going to follow us. Maybe I'm not sitting here, but they followed us, they trusted us, and we've been able to expand and add Dean and Jordan and Kevin, and we've got a great national team: Steve Wiltfong, Chad Simmons, Josh Newberg on the video side, Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, JD Piquel, Pete Nakos, the Portal King. I mean, we have such a great team at On3. And again, code Pony Up. It ends Sunday night. So I'm telling you, please tell our subscribers are our best marketers. Please tell your friends if you want to know what is happening with SMU football. And I hope the quarterback, I wish I puffed my chest out more about the quarterback situation, but I don't think it's necessarily right to do either because somebody's getting hurt in the situation. But I mean, I don't know how much more plugged in you want a site to be than I feel like we are right now. And it's 50% off. Code Pony Up annual subscriptions. And in terms of the site's growth and where we are, it's incredible. And so I imagined it, and as I sit here now, and I've said this last like couple years since we've got back to Dallas, you know, I want this to be something that one day we're sitting there with a studio bar type of setup, you know, on Mockingbird or somewhere, and it's, you know, it's the place to be. And we've got multiple shows, you know, Hayden Howerton's got a show, and Kyle Padron and Garrett Gilbert got a show, and Lord knows we got Bill Armstrong and myself working the Walking Strong, and we're doing things. And, you know, that's the vision one day. I mean, you got to take it, or we and everybody who supports it has to take it to a, you know, $1 million+ business. And one day, with the chipping away that we continue to do, might be a long time, but one day we can do something like that. And then it turns into something bigger because it snowballs. And I'm lucky to be young enough where, you know, whether one day I retire from like working full time, you know, hopefully I'm lucky enough to do that, and we can still have a lot of fun. And I don't want to sit around when I retire. Don't want to do that. You know, I want to have enough flexibility to hang out with hopefully my grandkids and do all of those things, but I want to hang around SMU football for a long, long time. And there's a long-term vision for all of that. And so, yeah, I can imagine SMU being here, and I can imagine this site being here and where it is, where we're now truly approaching 1,000 subscribers. And I've said this, in the next 4 years, I want to be at 2, because 2 changes the game. I mean, we're talking full-time staff members, not, all right, hey, we're gonna, part-time this, part-time that, and we'll give you guys great coverage, but like 2000 gives us a really incredible situation. So it's why I keep hammering people that if you know someone who's not on the site, send them to our sign up link, like show them and have them join. We got the newsletter, we've got podcasts. I mean, we've got everything you can imagine now. So I know I was trying to get out of here in an hour, but geez, just trying to pitch that. Yes, I've imagined this. I've imagined the site being great. I've imagined SMU getting to this point where, yes, we've seen them do it in the AAC, but we've known that the sleeping giant's certainly there, and they're capitalizing on it. And I mean, my goal is to capitalize on it. It's just business, and we've got a it's October 5th now, as 5th right now. And these next 3 months to finish out 2024 are an opportunity for us to grow to like 1,300. Those are the aggressive goals that I've got. And I hope that people help me out. Like, I feel like I help you guys out. We're around a lot. We give you guys a lot of content constantly. So if you know someone who's not on the board, just literally send them the link to join and get them to sign up. So, and I really appreciate it if you do. All right, very interesting. Last question. We're out of here. Think you were at the game. How hostile of an environment was it for our team? It was incredible. I mean, it was hostile. It wasn't and hold on, let me get back to this. Pruno 8, by the way, I appreciate you staying up. And I know I kept you up a couple of weeks ago, so let me get to this real quick. And then apostrophe matters. I'll circle back to that one. All right. Yes, I know. He said, "Thank you for answering, Billy. I'm subtly not happy. Of course, I just think, what would Saban do? Recent legend. You don't pass 3 times, regardless of your previous success or failure." Saban has rolled through some coordinators now. So like, and I've watched a ton of SEC football. So there are moments where teams, like, you can't pick out these moments and say, well, what the hell? That's a reflection on kind of how like the play calling is as a whole. Like, Rhett has developed so much overall as a play caller and understanding situations and how committed he is to running the football, and you can still be critical of him. And SMU ran it 35 times today, which is very good, right around what SMU needs. But yes, like Saban, you could probably dig it up. Saban has went to pass happy. I mean, I'm 99% sure that's why him and Lane Kiffin had a falling out. But among other things, but yeah, I mean, Saban wants to run the football, but I mean, there are moments in time that I know that Saban's offensive coordinator went to pass happy. So again, just giving you the perspective of 9 yards rushing in the third quarter. 9. That's it. And yes, you'd like to establish it, but it was at a point where the game was potentially slipping away and what you were doing wasn't working. And SMU hadn't pushed the ball down the field on the outside the numbers in particular, all game. And they finally did it. And then it loosens things up and they go for 90 plus yards in the fourth quarter. So things have a reason. And I've said this before about this offense. Things build. They have a play off a play, and they have another concept that builds off of a concept that happened earlier in the game. And that's when you hit the chunk plays that Kevin is working toward for most every game. And they all look different every single game. It's just part of the offense. All right. Apostrophe matters. And then I'm out of here. I'm not answering anymore. How do you explain what appears to be a leveling of the playing field across the landscape? Is it just parity? It's hard to win in college football. There's NIL, there's social media. It's crazy. It's wild. That's the leveling of the playing field. It's not Vandy being better and finding better players because of NIL. It's just teams lack consistent focus, which makes SMU's 3-game stretch even more impressive. And I would even say, BYU is very good. They lost because they screwed up in the red zone, not because they came out flat, not ready to play. So anyway, 2, I for one love that we don't know in week 0 who's going to be in the championship game. Isn't college football more enjoyable? Weekly upsets. Who wouldn't want this? Totally agree. Love it. I'm not a big NFL guy. I try to get away from the game, quite honestly, outside of fantasy football on Sundays. So I love college football. It's the best. All right. Very interesting. I think you're at the game. How hostile of an environment was it for our team? They tarp off the upper deck on the press box side, and then they had a few thousand people up in the very upper deck. It was an unbelievable environment. They bumped music. The playlist was great. Everything Louisville did. And to Bill Armstrong's comment about when SMU added Weber and they, quote unquote, you redo your kitchen, now you got to redo your bedrooms or bathrooms and things like that. I think seeing that stadium will not only force SMU's administration to start petitioning UP to raise height minimums and restrictions and things like that, or maximums and restrictions and things like that, but SMU keeps winning, they're going to want to look the part in terms of the stadium for a Power 4 team. So it was awesome. Wasn't a overly nice stadium, but just the way it was built, you're on top of it. It looked legit. So SMU keeps winning. They keep filling forward. SMU's administration will want a change to get to that level of a game experience and stadium, and they'll need to make changes in all those things. SMU needs to be about 45 to 50,000 seats, in my opinion. And to finish that out, L&N Stadium is 60,000 seats. Perfect size. It was awesome. It was a great experience. The guys really played well. So, all right, that's it, guys. I got to let you go. It is now 11:13 local. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and hope it gets you through your Sunday. Again, go to mosquito.com for the best pricing of the season. Use code PONYUP. Reach out to our friends Andrew Galloway, and they'll get you all hooked up with Mosquito Shield. That is the best way to get through the rest of the fall, and be sitting out back. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of Miami Cal. I hope you guys had a great Saturday of college football as SMU is a winner, 34-27. Into the bye week, on to Stanford. Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast. Again, 50% off annual subscriptions with code PONYUP. Runs through Sunday night. Catch you guys later this week on another edition of the On the Pony Express pod.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU_on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.